I've always watched the sailboats, and I'm like, man, I want a sailboat. Man, I want a sailboat. And I was like sailing fever. I kept coming around to the Compact, and finally, I bit the bullet and said, you know what? I'm gonna go find me a boat.
Welcome to the Passages from the Heart podcast, a podcast made by an everyday sailor for everyday sailors. We talk everything from day sailing to racing to cruising to camping out on your boat and everything in between. It's time now to raise the sails. I'm excited to introduce you to one of my fellow YouTubers, Squally Heifer of Squally Heifer Adventures. Squally also, like me, happens to have a Com-Pac Legacy sailboat. In our talk today, we cover all sorts of legacy goodies, some of which include how our boats came equipped when we purchased them, some of the modifications we've made to our boats. We talk about the different outboard engines that we use aboard the boats, discuss what sort of sails we have on board, and how easy it is to trailer, set up, and rig and get the boat splashed on the water to get out and enjoy some sailing fun. And speaking of enjoy, I hope you've been enjoying my Passages from the Heart podcast series while both Charm and Charisma are on the hard for the off season. I'm having a lot of fun meeting new sailors and getting them to share their stories with me and with you. If you haven't already, I'd be so honored if you would subscribe to our channel and check out our website at passagesfromtheheart.wordpress.com. Okay, here's my conversation with Squally Heifer of Squally Heifer Adventures. I'd like to welcome you to the Passages from the Heart podcast. Today is my very special guest, Squally Heifer, who also happens to be a Com-Pac Legacy owner. And I am thrilled to have you on the show, Squally. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. It's really exciting to meet more legacy owners.
For sure. And I just love talking, sailboats in general, compacts, totally. But especially when I learn folks have the same kind of boat that I do, then, watch out, because then you won't be able to shut me up. So speaking of the Com-Pac Legacy, I definitely want to delve into that in much depth and detail. However, one of the things I love to do when I first start the podcast is to talk about our guests' origin sailing story. So I just was wondering if you'd be willing to tell us, how did you come to be a sailor, and how long have you been doing it, and what is it that called for you to get out there on the water with raising your sails?
Oh, well, as far as actual sailing, I'm pretty much a newbie. I've only been doing it a few years, but I've been on the water my entire life. When I turned 18, right when I graduated high school, I bought me a 1961 Razorback, paid like $150 for it. I scrounged around and I got me a Mercury, a 1963 Mercury. I paid like $75 for it. Basically, put this little boat back together. It was not the best looking boat, but it got me out on the water. And yeah, ever since then, I just went from boat to boat to boat. I've had pontoon boats, bigger boats. They've all been power boats, though. Petty cabins, runabouts. And I always watch the sailboats. I've always watched the sailboats, and I'm like, man, I want a sailboat. Man, I want a sailboat. And then it got to where I actually read every single book I could find about sailing, all the way from, Sailing for Dummies and everything else I could put my hands on. And finally I bit the bullet and said, you know what? I'm gonna go find me a boat. And then that took me about another 3 years, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because once you start researching sailboats, as you know, I mean, it's everything's out there, right? From giant
Right.
little ones to little dinghies. It's like, what kind of sailing do you want to do? So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I looked all over the place, and it came back. I kept coming around to the Compact, and it kept coming back up as just a very reliable boat. And it had great reviews. I mean, you could go on any forum or thread out there, and everybody just talks about the quality of the build and how it'll hold up in weather. And now that I've been sailing it, I guarantee you it holds up in weather. It is a very solid boat. So I'm
Yeah, I agree.
so yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. It was a long road getting here, but yeah, I ended up with the Com-Pac Legacy, and that's where we're at with that one. So I wanted to go used, and I looked at all the used ones. But when you go used and you've never done something in your entire life, like you're going out there by yourself, um, are you buying the right one? Is it truly good? Is there problems with it that you don't know about? Are you rigging it correctly? So when you really look at it in the long term, and that's what I was looking at, I said, you know what? I think it was better just to go new with Com-Pac themselves, and I had a good baseline for learning my sails and my techniques. So that's kind of how I got to the Com-Pac Legacy.
Yeah, I would say I agree with all of that. And that was my experience as well. And I think that you and I were probably both boat shopping around the same time for the Legacy because, well, if I remember correctly, I think Squally Heifer is a 2021, right?
Right, right.
Yep, and that's what my first Legacy, Sunflower, was a 2021, and I purchased her brand new as well. But I went through the same sort of, oh, I don't know, predicament, I guess, shall we say, with the used versus new. I mean, my budget initially was like, okay, used for sure. Okay, we're not getting a new boat. But then when I started looking into how much used boats were compared to getting a boat like the Com-Pac Legacy, I started thinking that the value that you get with the used boat for the price, comparing it to the new boat with the Com-Pac Legacy, it was like, to me, it was just, it made more sense to invest the money in the newer boat because I could buy a brand new boat for about the same price that I could get a used boat for that was of somewhat decent quality. But like you said, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. And I don't live in an area that's maritime at all. So there are no boat surveyors here. And even though I have some knowledge of sailing and boating, I would never say that I'm a qualified surveyor to assess only. I mean, obviously, there's the obvious things like, if something's rotting, if there's a hole in the boat. But, there's a lot of things that you need to know about to make sure you're buying a sound vessel. And I don't know. I just thought with the value of the Com-Pac Legacy, I didn't think I could go wrong. And the same thing I found, just all sorts of great reviews and the ease of how this boat, you can be a newbie to sailing and the ease of rigging it and getting out in the water, is there's just no denying that it's just a great way to go. So I would love to hear about how, when you first got Squally Heifer, what, how did you get familiar with her? As far as, did you do this all on your own? Did you have some help? Did you, I don't know if you're a broker or a salesperson gave you some tips, or how did that all get started for you to actually get her rigged and get her out on the water?
So I did a lot of practice in my yard. I was the crazy neighbor who was out there putting the mast up, setting the sails in the driveway, and then putting it down, and then putting it back up, and then putting it down, and putting it back up, and putting it down. I knew my neighbors were like, "What is that crazy guy doing over there?"
Well, that's a great way to do it, though.
But yeah, I wanted to be comfortable enough that I knew the steps. I can put it up and down. I knew how to set the sails, and when I got on the water, I wouldn't be dealing with anything new other than, okay, now I'm on the water. So it was a lot of practice on land is actually what I did. I did a lot of little trial and error. I looked at how it was set. I played around with it, and I did that. Believe it or not, I probably did it for a few weeks before I actually took it out because I wanted to make sure I was good before I went out on my own. Because as you can see, and from my channel, I go out by myself quite a bit. So when I go out, I want to make sure that I'm going to be set with what's needed. So I do a lot of prep work before I go out.
Yeah, being a solo sailor, definitely, I think, you know, you've got to be prepared. I mean, you should always be prepared, even if you've got other crew members on board, obviously, too. But I think even more so when you're by yourself. And I'll just say that that is something that really inspires me that you do this, because I would love to be able to do that with my legacy and also my Com-Pac 23 at some point as well, to get out there on my own. But I'm not there yet, and I all has to do with my comfort level is just not uh, up to speed. I think with where I am, feeling like I can get out on the water. And it's, you know what though, I'll just tell you, it's not really even so much about the sailing part. For me, it's more about the engine. I feel like it's always my nemesis. You know, I just worry about, well, what if it dies when I'm trying to get out of the slip, because that's happened. What if it dies when I'm trying to get into the slip, because that's happened. It's, you know, when you have two people on board, it's a lot easier to tackle those sorts of crises, if you will. But when you're by yourself, it seems a bit more daunting to me.
Yes, yeah. And speaking of engines, there's nowhere to go but brand new engines. I've been left out on the road from my vehicles. That first boat I was telling you about, I got stranded a few times out there on the water when that old engine died on me. So that's another one what I want brand spanking new. I want a new engine that I've maintained it. I know that all of the oil change have been done annually, and it's going to be reliable source for you.
Okay, so what engine, and you know what, actually, before we talk engines too, I think I should tell our listeners, because I'm not sure if people are completely familiar with the Com-Pac lineup of boats that they have. So they have a lot of trailerable options. So just to let people know, the Com-Pac Legacy is not the smallest that they offer of their trailer sailors, but it is, I believe, it's the smallest sloop. They have a smaller cat boat. That's the picnic cat. That's smaller at 14 feet LOA, I think. And our legacies, you'll have to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think our legacies are 16 foot 6 inches LOA. Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so we have three. So there's a head stay, there's a single side stay, port and starboard. There's no back stay. The boom is attached to the mast. I guess I would say permanently, although I'm sure there's a way you could take it off. But the idea is they have a special name for it. And you know what? The name that it's like, is it the mast ender system? Do you remember what they call that?
It was I think the mass tender system was the Com-Pac Eclipse, and the Com-Pac Legacy, it was something similar to that. The boom tender system. Yeah, the
Oh,
mass tender was
yeah.
the Eclipse and the boom tender was the Legacy.
Yep, that's right. Boom tender. That sounds right. So the idea being that when you get with this boat, when you arrive at the ramp, you know, you should be able to get the boat rigged and in the water like lickety split. So all you're doing basically is pushing the mast up, attaching the forestay with, I can't remember what that piece of hardware is called. Do you remember what they call that too?
It's just a quick connect. That's all I know. No, you're absolutely right. Right, you push up the mast, and then the forestay you just clip it onto that to the front end with that quick connect fitting, and then the boom comes down and you just clip it onto that the stern arch, and that's what holds it together. And that's all of your connections. Your mast is up, your boom set, you're ready to go. That's one of the reasons why I love this boat, is how fast you can get it set up.
I
Now,
agree. Yep, I agree. Although I did have a slip, so I wasn't doing this as much as you. You definitely, as a trailer sailor, had a lot of practice with rigging Squally. So, how long would you say right now it would take you to, once you get to the ramp and you start rigging? How long is it before you've got her rigged and you can get her splashed?
from the time I hit the parking lot to the time I'm in the water, it's about 45 minutes. And that's just me. I take my time. I don't go too fast. I don't go too slow. But I also don't leave my mainsail on the boom. And you're right. The Legacy is set up so that way you can leave the mainsail and the boom on the mast. It's all attached. You just push it up and you're ready to go. But the weight gets a little too much for me. I just don't like it. So I just like to push the mast up, and then I'll bring the main and put the main on after the fact.
Yeah, I was thinking that they did kind of bill the Legacy as just leaving the mainsail on the boom. And I believe if people wanted to see a video of that happening, there is a company called GI Sales, G as in great, I Sales, SAILS, that's out of Florida, and they're a compact dealer, and they have a YouTube channel of several compact boats, and one of them is of the Legacy at the ramp, where they're rigging the boat and launching the boat, which I must have watched that like a billion times before I bought my Legacy, just because I wanted to really understand how it worked. So that was a great resource for me. Did you see that video too? I'm curious.
I did, and I must have watched it a million times along with the compact official video too. And that's kind of why I started the YouTube channel. There was really no information out there on this boat. So I said, you know what? Let's just start throwing something out there, because it's kind of like a dead spot in YouTube when it comes to the compact Legacy.
I agree. And that's exactly why I did my channel as well. Because I thought when I looked for this boat, all I kept finding were things for compact sun cats. There's a ton of sun cat videos out there, which is their 17-foot gaff rigged trailerable cat boat, but not hardly anything on the compact Legacy. So, and it's funny because, you do want to know when you're shopping, well, where do the lines go? How are they run on the boat? Do I need to go forward to deal with anything, or can I stay in the cockpit to work everything? And see, these are all questions that were unanswered. However, I will just also say, if you are in that position like we were when you're looking for a boat like this, reach out to Com-Pac directly, because they are hands down some of the best customer service I've ever had with any product that I've had in my life. And one person in specifically that I'm going to mention is the co-owner, Jerry Hutchins, who oftentimes is fielding customer service questions. He's very responsive. Quick to get answers to you, and wants to make sure that you're comfortable with the boat, and will do. I feel like he'd bend over backwards to make sure that you're all set and got the answers that you need. So the other thing that I would say with the Legacy, I find that with going forward, speaking of all lines leading aft, or you have to go forward on the boat, I had to go forward to douse the head sail. And when you're up on the bow of the Legacy, I'll just, put this out there that it is definitely not a whole lot of real estate on which to stand. So I'm curious, I can't remember if you did or did you decide to stay with Hank on your boat, or are you going, or did you go to the furling world?
Yeah, I got it with Hank on. And a person who's never sailed before, you see everything about roller furlings, and you see the Hank-ons, and you see the debate between the two, which one's better, which one's not. Now that I've got it with the Hank-ons, I really think I'm going to prefer it over a roller furling, just because of the ease of it. I had a storm jib built. And now all I do is decide when I launch the boat, am I putting the storm jib on, or am I putting the big lapper jib on? And then I go from there. I'm not going up in the front and changing sails. So I pretty much just make my decision up front, and then that's my sail, and that's the one I'm going out for the day with.
I am the same school of thought on that. I had a storm jib made for my Legacy as well, which I definitely was happy to use on several occasions, as I get quite a bit of wind where I live. And I found, getting this storm jib was, to me, another tool in the sailor's toolbox that I can use that enables me to keep getting out on the water, because, there were days that it would be blowing, sometimes, I don't know, over 10 knots, and I would start to feel a little nervous, like with the lapper. And I only have one set of reef points too on the mainsail at that point in time. And I thought, you know what? I mean, I never worried about the boat going over or anything like that. But my husband was new to sailing too at the time, and when the boat would start to heel a bit and you have a little too much sail up, I think what we did is actually we might have just dropped either the main or dropped the head sail. I don't remember which we did, but I knew then and there, okay, time to invest in having a storm jib made, and also time to invest in having a second set of reef points put in, because I wanted to keep getting out in the water. And that gave me confidence, having those two tools, if you will, in the sailor's toolbox to still get out there in the water. How are you with that? Do you have two sets of reef points on Squally? Or I know you've got the storm jib, but I'm curious, when it gets brisky and out there, how is your confidence with this little boat out in the water?
Yeah, so when I had the loft, when the loft that made my my storm jib, they also put a second reef point in there for me also. And I actually haven't used that second reef point yet. I've used the first reef, but I haven't actually used the second since I put it in, because with the storm jib, it really takes a lot of that depowering out of the sails, and it helps it a lot. Now, the funny story is one of the first times I took my boat out, it must have been the second or third time, and I was like sailing fever. That wind out there was blowing about 27, 28 knots. And I looked at that water and I was like, and I wanted to turn around, but I was like, man, I'm already here at the ramp. So I went out in it anyway. And I'm talking full lapper, full main, and I got turned around a lot. I rounded up a lot. And let's just say, when you go through that and that boat didn't get water in it, it just builds your confidence with that legacy of, you know what, you can abuse this boat and you can really mess it up, and it's just going to stay steady for you out there on the water. So, I mean,
Yeah.
after I went through that, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's laughing at me on the shoreline, but when you go through that, you're just like, man, this boat can take anything. And now I leave the full main on and the lapper jib up to about 12, 13 knots. I won't
Wow. Okay.
I
Yeah.
won't I won't put the storm jib on until I hit 15. And then about 20 knots is when I'll put the first reef in.
Okay.
So
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 I'm.
I mean, right
Go ahead.
now, if it's blowing less than 30, I'm not scared to go out. Now, I've never been out in more than that, but I don't think I'd want to. But if it's 30 or less, that boat's set up ready to go. She wants to be out on the water.
Yeah, I read, so the gentleman that I bought my second, because I bought another Legacy, right? Because I sold my first one, which was a mistake. I should not have done that. But I ended up buying the second one, a used one. But you know what? I I felt comfortable with this boat because I bought it from someone that I know. And so anyway, long story short, he was telling me stories with this boat. She's a 2008. She was sailing on Lake Erie, and he was telling me some stories. I think he said he would be out in 5 foot swell with the boat on the lake. And I mean, he did tell me there were times when he'd be like, man, maybe I should turn around. But yeah, he had full confidence in the boat. And when he told me that, and I had full confidence in the boat too, to be honest with you, it's not so much the boat. I think it's more my skill sets and my ability to, as a sailor, sometimes I feel like when I'm not in the moment, am I going to remain calm and be cool and address these situations without panicking? Because sometimes I know I'm one to let the anxiety run with me a bit on things. But I will tell you now, when I look back on some experiences that I had with both the Legacy and my 23 that were maybe sort of getting on the line of a little hairy, I kind of surprised myself that I did stay pretty calm about it. And it's almost like your logical brain shuts off and the intuitive part of myself just sort of takes over. And it's like, okay, it just kind of goes into like this rote sort of behavior, and I start doing these things. And maybe this is from when I was sailing as a kid, and I sailed on a lot as between the ages of 6 and 22, up in the Great Lakes, and also in this little lake area where I am now. And I guess those sorts of things, like riding a bike, they kind of just sort of come back to you. But that doesn't mean that I still sometimes, that logical part of my mind is like, it is blowing 25. Do I really want to go out on this? And the truth of the matter is, I want to, but I need to not feel like it's something that I couldn't handle, and especially for you as a solo sailor, that to me even is more fascinating, because there's just you, right? There's nobody else out there that's gonna do anything, right? It's all up to you. But it sounds to me like you feel pretty confident with all that now.
Oh yeah, and I never really worried about it. I've been out in weather before. Again, all power boats, and the way I looked at it is, man, if I messed it up that bad, I just drop all the sails, turn on the engine, and there I go. So I was kind of like, I can't mess it up that bad because I got an engine. So you just kind of go out there and keep playing around with it until you get it down. But it is a confidence, and it is actually getting out there in the weather. Once you're out there and you see how well that boat handles, and you're just like, wow, what was I scared of? So, and I've never thought that boat was ever going to tip over on me. I just never had that feeling. She bites into that water, and she holds the ground really good.
Yeah, I feel that way too about my legacy. I felt like she's, points well into the, she doesn't, I don't ever feel like I have too much, what is that, weather helm on the boat. It always feels like everything is pretty balanced, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel the same way with you, is that boat is built like a tank. Now, is she meant to sail across Lake Superior? Because I've thought about doing that. I'd like to take my boats up, one of the two of them, up to the Apostle Islands, maybe sail up to Isle Royal. I used to do a lot of that in the summers growing up on charter boats. And so often think of, well, is the Legacy a boat that I could do that sort of thing with? I think for sure sailing around the Apostle Islands, sailing from, that area up to Isle Royal, I think the boat probably could do it. I know that people circumnavigate on boats that are as small as our boats. But of course, they've probably been, if you were to call Com-Pac and say, can I sail around the world in this boat? They're going to say no, because that's not what they're designed to do. They're designed to be, pocket cruisers, coastal cruisers, that sort of thing. But I don't know, maybe if you had aspirations of doing a big trip like that, you could outfit the boat so that it could do that. I don't know. I'd be curious what people would do with something like that. Have you ever thought about, like, so I know you're a Gulf Coast sailor, and so having said that, that area gets some good weather, I would imagine, some spicy weather. Have you ever thought about sailing the boat across the Gulf or anything like that?
And actually, yes, but I mean, I'm not going to have a big boat for that. Mine is crossing from Florida, the Gulf Stream, to the Bahamas, and get the Keys, the dry Tortugas, everything that you can get within that 30-40 mile sail, 70-mile sail within a day. I think the 23, a lot of people have done that in the 23s. I know I did read an article, a person did it in a Com-Pac 16, but the weather was perfect and they had to wait for it. So, I mean, anything's possible, but I think that 23 is a really good boat, because I've seen a lot of people make a lot of trips in that 23.
Yeah, I would agree. And in fact, the 23 that I had before the 23 I have now was one of those types of boats, where that boat was that one of the owners that outfitted her for coastal cruising, he was the second owner, if I remember. He sailed that boat up in Alaska, and then he sailed that boat down in the Sea of Cortez. The boat then was in the Gulf of Mexico, and then on the Chesapeake Bay, and then up off the coast of Maine. So those boats, for sure, I think, would probably be the boat to do something like that with. But what is this, the 16 that you read about that did the sail from Florida to the Bahamas? Do you remember where you read that, or what boat that was, or was that on the Com-Pac
It was
forum?
an old Com-Pac 16. It was a person, if I remember, they were like doing their marine biology thesis, and they needed to go over there to look at some snails or something, and they took their boat over there. It was just one of those things of they needed to do it. They wanted they wanted their research, and they just did it.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty amazing. Well, thinking back to the Com-Pac and its ease of rigging, and I'm curious, is there anything that you've done outside from what the factory put on the boat to begin with? So I'm not sure how your boat came outfitted, but in general, there's lots of extras you can get. And for people who are curious about what those extras are, Com-Pac actually has price sheets that you can email their customer service department, and they will forward you the brochure PDF you can review on the model, as well as the price sheet, which will show you the base price of the boat and then all the things it comes with standard. And then it will list all the things that you can get extra. So with Squally Heifer, what sort of goodies did you get with her, and what sort of goodies have you installed or put on the boats after you got the boat? I'm curious how you've outfitted her.
So I got the boat pretty much plain Jane. I didn't really get too many extras on it. One of the things I've done for the jib is I've made some soft shackles of different lengths. I make my own out of Dyneema, and that way I don't have to worry about tying it off in the front. And then on the rear, I've got quick connect snap shackles, so I don't have to actually deal with any D-rings or any screwdrivers. So when I set my whole boat up, it's literally a tool-free process, and that's what I set it up for. Most of my major modifications were on the trailer. So on my keel, in the front of my keel, I actually put a gator guard on it. And I don't know if you know what those are. That's that rubber that you see on boats, so that when they come on and off the trailer a whole lot, they don't rub themselves up.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen. So it's like is it kind of like a material that you put over the keel guards? Is that what you're talking about?
right, like a keel guard. It's like a little rubber. So I actually got that in the front of mine because I have bumped into my trailer a couple of times. And then on my trailer on the back, I put a bunch of wood, so that way it guides me into the slot for the keel. I can't hit one side or the other.
Huh,
So
I'd be curious to see a picture of that.
yeah, I need to get that out there. And then I put I made me a motor mount for the front, because picking that motor up into the vehicle and out was kind of a pain. So now it's literally, I could just pick it up, walk it over, set it on the transom. It makes that a lot easier too.
I also have one of those on my new boat. The new trailer, or the trailer that came with my new boat, has one of those. Yeah, I can see why that would be very handy.
And then I put I've got 5-foot bunk boards on each side. So not only do I have wood in the back guiding me into the slot for the keel, I also have bunk boards guiding me too. So I mean, even if I'm off hitting that trailer, it pretty much self-aligns, so that way I get it on the first time. And again, that's a lot of solo sailing stuff. I mean, if you're with somebody, you probably don't need a lot of self-aligning gadgets the way I put my trailer. But that was basically my main setup, was the trailer, getting it on and off with ease.
Yeah, I think I would be curious, and I'd love to get into your YouTube channel too. I would love to see if you could make a video that would be geared towards people who solo sail this boat. Like, okay, here's some things that I did to make being a solo sailor a bit, more streamlined with my boat. And one of the things that I will tell you that for me is a must that I have crossed off my list is a jib downhaul. So remember how I talked about the real estate on the Com-Pac Legacy not being a whole lot to navigate around when you're up on deck, and if you've got 3-foot lake swell or whatever, it's a little, for me, it's a little dicey to be on up on deck. So this new boat that I have, it came with a jib downhaul, which was one of the things that I was going to do with Sunflower before I sold her, but I never got it done. But that to me is like, okay, if you're a solo sailor, you definitely want to have the jib downhaul. If you're a solo sailor, okay, everybody's been telling me you got to get one of those, what do they call it? Tiller clutches. So that you can, some people just use like shock cords or a line to tie their tillers off. So,
I have a tiller clutch and I can't live without it. I mean, that is like the thing to have for a solo sailor, because it allows me to just I can set the tiller. I can go up on the deck, do what I need to, come back, and that boat keeps on going in the direction that I've set it for. So yeah, the tiller tamer, it is a must.
Yeah, I definitely need to get one of those. I don't think that Charisma, that's what I've named my new boat. I don't think that she has, well, you know what? I think, I'm thinking back now. I think that she might have that, because I remember now there was some hardware on the boat, and I'm for one a weenie about installing hardware, because I don't want to put any more holes in the boat than that it came with. So I think that part is all taken care of. But I think it's a pretty benign process to install that, wouldn't you say, if you wanted to install a tiller clutch?
Oh yeah, you just put a couple of cam cleats on each side, and then the tiller clutch just screws right into it. So I mean, it's pretty benign. It's not nothing hard about it.
What are some other things that you've done aside from the couple of the trailer things? Do you have a jib downhaul too on your boat? I wasn't sure if you did that yet.
No, I've been wanting to do it. I keep looking at all sorts of different pictures. I saw that first podcast of yours, and that gave me some more ideas. But that's if I'm going to stay out for a while. I think I'll want to do that, but I haven't quite needed it just yet.
Yeah.
The tiller tailor, the tiller tamer, and then just going on deck, wrapping a line around it real quick. I mean, I'm not even 5 seconds up there on the deck, stretched out, just to tie that, the sail down. It's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, so in addition to, like I mentioned, with the other trailer outfittings that you have done for making launching and retrieving easier and kinder to the boat's keel and such, what are some of the other features? Like, for example, I think you said you installed a boom bang on Squally Heifer. Is that right?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah, that was another interesting build, because there's nothing out there. You have to build it on your own. So I pieced it all together, and it's also been a really good investment, especially when you go downwind. It keeps that boom down, and you get more power out of it. I do like that. And again, quick snap shackles. I just pop it on, pop it off, no tools necessary.
Yeah, that's great. I think that my new boat has a boom bang too, but I'm going to tell you something funny. When I went to de-rig the boat, when she was on the hard in my barn driveway, I was racing against the clock because we were supposed to get some sort of iffy weather coming, and I didn't want the boat to get like the sail was still on the boom, for example, even though the mainsail cover was on. I'm like, you know what? I worry about mold and mildew, and I'm like, I got to get all this stuff off the boat. So I just, one night I went out there and just like was taking this off, taking that off. And I'm like, well, hopefully I remember how this goes back together. Because there was a lot more on this boat than Sunflower had by far, like a lot more gear. So I'm going to have, I'm looking forward to making some humorous videos this coming spring when I start to try to put her back together, and what an idiot I'll probably be trying to do it, because there's a lot of things that I'm, like I said, I didn't have on Sunflower that will be a new experience for me. But looking at some of the other projects that you've done, like I said, with the the boom bang and the trailer modifications, you've got the tiller clutch. Is there anything else that you would recommend for people that are interested in this boat that they might want to have? Like, like, I'll tell you another thing for me. I did not spend the money on the cushions for the interior nor for the cockpit. I did, however, get the little PVC, or not the PVC, it's like a foam backrest that the lifeline that goes from the cabin trunk attaches to the stern arch. That's like, so you can lean up against it, and it's, you're not leaning up against just a lifeline. You've got a little cushion there. I got that. I'm trying to think, what else did I get with mine?
So that's actually one of the questions that I have for you is I got the regular rudder, and I keep hearing about that foiling rudder, and does it really make a difference? Should I actually invest in a foiling rudder for that upwind performance? I mean, does your new Legacy have the foiling rudder, or is it standard?
Yeah. So when I bought, well, our 2021s, it was not standard. And so when I got my boat, I bought my boat from G. Winters Sailing in New Jersey. Don Huffle was my representative sales guy. He ordered the boat with the Ruddercraft foiled rudder. And so I'll just be honest, and my new boat also has the same rudder.
Okay.
So and then my Com-Pac 23 also has a foiled rudder. So I can't personally speak to performance with a standard versus foiled, but I can tell you the Com-Pac Yacht Owners Association forum has a lot of discussion about that topic. And so mostly what I hear people say is, or I've read, is people really love the foiled rudders and do feel that they improve everything from weather helm to, the boat points better. It sounds like people really think that's the way to go from what I've read. But, if you have the standard rudder and it works for you, then I think that's what I would say with. Not that one is better than the other per se, but I'm sure that there must be a bit of difference in how the boat would feel and respond. But I couldn't speak personally to that.
Right. I'll tell you, I do have, when the wind picks up and you're in 20 plus knot winds, beating into the wind gets a little rough. It doesn't point really good. So that's the only reason why I'm halfway thinking of, is it worth it? But it's not, every day kind of a situation that I really just want to point up and the wind's blowing,
Right.
I've never had a problem. 15 knot winds, 10 knot winds, man, I can point up and have a good time. So
yeah,
it's not like a really big deal for me right now. It's just kind of an inconvenience, I think, sometimes. And I don't know, either that or I'm just overthinking it, saying, man, maybe it really will help that much.
yeah. I'm not really sure, but like I said, I've been really happy with both on my 23 and with when I had Sunny, or Sunflower. I called her Sunny for her nickname, with the boat. So, like, for example, if you are post hauled and the tiller is not in my chest, to keep the boat on course. You know what I mean? Have you ever sailed a boat like that, where, like, I sailed in my ASA, what was it, 103, I think it was ASA 103. I took a course up in Minneapolis, in Lake Minnetonka, and we had 123. And we had some good wind that day. Knot wise, I don't know. I don't remember how many knots it was blowing. But all I can tell you is that when I was at the helm, I had the tiller in my chest to keep the boat on course. So, which was kind of annoying, so, and I know that boat did not have a foiled rudder, but I don't know. From what I hear people say, I believe that the foiled rudder would, that and things like having good sails, because old blown out sails also will create weather helm and that sort of thing too. But obviously with our boats, your boat being a 2021, I'm sure your sails are fine. But yeah, something to kind of keep on the back burner if you ever get to the point. Oh, another thing people talk about too is how easily the boat will tack. Like some people, I remember on the forum, there's a gentleman who has an Eclipse, and he was complaining about how he'd always stall out when he would tack his boat. so everybody was chiming in and asking questions. And one of the things that did come up aside from, age of the sails and was do you have a foiled rudder? So I don't know. Some people seem to think that makes tacking better too, but I don't know. I think it's just a personal preference. And as sailors, we often are just learning by doing, right?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, it'll be one of those little questions I'll keep in my head, but I might spring for it one day, but not right now.
Well, they are pricey. I mean, I don't remember exactly what the price is, but they are pricey. But like I said, that price sheet, that if people are interested, request it from Com-Pac, and it'll show you a lot of those extras that you can get for the boat if you want to have other things added, like I said, the cushions or just about, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But I never did get back to the engine that you have on Squally, and I would like to. What horsepower and what kind of engine did you go with for her?
I have a 6 horsepower Mercury.
Wow, six horsepower. Wow,
6 horsepower, yes. She actually acts as an auxiliary for my power boat. So again, I want 2 means of propulsion on all my boats. So even when I go out with my power boat, I have that main engine, and I have that 6 horsepower sitting right there, ready to push that in case the big one dies. So
yeah, okay.
So, yeah, and I'm not gonna just because I already have it. It's just gonna use. It'll be double duty. So she's the auxiliary for Squally Heifer, and then she's my auxiliary for my big boat, my Salty Heifer.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have interestingly, I have a 6 horsepower on the 23. It's I can't even remember what brand it is. I think it's a Mercury too, actually. And then I have on Charisma, she came with a Honda 2.3, brand new engine that the owner I purchased from he just got it last summer, and it has like less than 5 hours on it. But I also have a brand new Mercury that I bought for Sunflower, 3.5 horsepower, to replace the old 3.5 horsepower that we purchased used when we got the boat, because back then it was during COVID and you couldn't find engines, long shaft engines especially. Do you have a long shaft engine on Squally Heifer?
Yes, yeah, it was a long shaft, and I had to order it. I had to order it and wait for it to come in, because you were absolutely right. They weren't out there, so it was a order and wait kind of a game.
Yeah. So we did end up finally getting the new one, but I kept that engine when I sold the boat. So now I have I have 3 engines. So I have the 2.3, the 3.5, and I've got the 6. So, and two of the 3 are basically brand new, but the sails that you said you have a lapper, you have a storm, you've got a mainsail with 2 reef points. Any other sails for Squally that you have? Or
No, that's all I got. That seems to do everything I need.
Yeah, I was actually looking to
the 6 horsepower. I've actually clocked it, and it'll push that boat about 6.5 miles an hour. I mean, it's full hull speed with it. I mean,
wow, okay.
Speed with that 3.5 or that 2.3? Have you tried to see what that does?
No, I haven't gotten out on Charisma yet, so I don't know. I should ask the gentleman I purchased her from just what he would say, because I know he would know the answer to that, but I haven't used it yet, so I'm not sure. With Sunflower, we pretty much just use the engine to get in and out of the slip, and then there were a couple times when it got a little funny outside or on the lake with the power boat swell and the wind, that I just was like, okay, it's time to bail and go back in now. And so we did get the iron engine, or iron sail rather, going. I know that's one thing I don't have on my boat, is I don't have any that tells you how fast you're going. Those instruments, I don't have all I have is at the top of my mast, I have a Windex. I don't have a depth finder. I don't have any of that kind of instrumentation. So I have no idea how fast I was going or can go. Do you have any instruments for your boat?
I have a little handheld GPS that I use for navigation. But if you also, and it'll give me the speed too. But if you want to, I usually go into maps on my phone and then just set a destination because in the bottom left corner it'll tell you your speed. So
Really? Okay, I
yeah,
didn't even think of that.
I just use my maps app on my phone that you use to drive around with, and then it tells me the speed that I'm going.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a great tool to use. Are you when you're going out on the water too, you're pretty much just day sailing. Are you overnighting at all with your boat?
I've every time I want to overnight, something's always coming up. But yeah, that's also why I bought the Legacy the way I did, so I couldn't overnight in it. But I just haven't done it just yet. So I'm pretty happy with the day sailing.
Yeah, I've been wanting to overnight in my boat, and actually haven't even overnighted in the 23 either. But mostly that's just because of my situation with I have a farm and lots of critters that I care for. But one of my goals this summer is to overnight on both Charisma and Charm. That's my name of my 23 is Charm. I just, some people say, well, I don't know. The Legacy is pretty small. As far as I understand, the berths in that boat can accommodate someone who's, I think, at least 6 feet. I mean, who is at least tall as 6 feet. I'm not sure if I have that right, but the idea with it is that you can overnight on it. There's room to put a porta potty. I think that it goes under the cockpit sole. Is that where it is? I can't remember now with isn't that terrible? I don't remember where. Up in Charm, it's up under the V berth cushion, under the V berth area. There's a place, but I think on the Legacy, I want to say it was kind of under when you come in the companionway in there. But I've
Yeah,
never
I bought a 3.5 gallon bucket and then a lid, and I have it right there where you come in on the companionway. So
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I think that's where I think that's where ours would be too. Okay, well, let's talk. I know we're coming up on an hour and I want to be respectful of your time because I'm just so excited to have you here. There's lots of things I'd love to ask you, but I do want to get into the YouTube channel that you have. So people who are interested in this boat, the Com-Pac Legacy, they have a lot of great resources coming from that they can turn to with your channel because you not only just sort of, talk about, sailing on the boat when you're on the water, but a lot of these projects. Like I think that you do have videos. Maybe you did a video of the boom bang. I can't remember, but how did you? I know you said you wanted to kind of do this because there wasn't a lot out there at the time when you bought your Legacy. How are you liking running your YouTube channel and what other sorts of projects do you have in mind with it moving forward?
yeah, the YouTube channel is actually fun. I'm a really, really bad camera person. A lot of times I go out and I'm actually just in the moment having fun. And then I come back later and I'm like, oh, did I get any video of that? What can I put together with it? So it's, believe it or not, just about all my videos were afterthoughts of, oh yeah, I went and did that. Um, but they're all water related. Everything that I have right now is water related. So if I couldn't get out on my sailboat, you'll see my fishing off the other boat or fishing off the coast. Or I've got some knots. I'm definitely going to do some knot videos here coming up because I haven't. We're in a little bit of a drought over here, so I think I will do a lot of knot videos. I love rope, and it just fascinates me on how you can splice them, put it all together, and I do want to share some of that knowledge. So I do play around with the ropes and knots a lot.
Yeah, I had as part of my ASA instruction, they do require you to learn specific knots, of course, the bowline being one of them, but there are a lot of others. One of my favorites is how you can take two different diameter lines and then connect them to make a contiguous line. One of my favorite knots is that I don't remember what it's called offhand, but yeah, no, I can't wait for those videos because that will be a wonderful resource for people as well. Is there, with this issue that you were talking about just a second ago with this the drought is I know that your most recent video actually is exactly on that topic. What's going on and like how are these like Corps of Engineer lakes and what are the officials sort of doing to mitigate or I'm just curious, like, because we're having the same kind of issue not as drastic as your video shows. That I don't remember where that was specifically, I think, but I know with our lake, it's not to the point where, you were walking in the actual riverbed because there's no water in it at all anymore. That sounds
Right.
real scary.
Uh, Droughts happen. I've actually never lived through one that's this extensive. It's actually breaking a lot of records on how extensive this one is. Um, so of course, the Corps of Engineers they do what they're supposed to. They reduce all the water flows that they can. They manage their dams, and so it is a downside because I haven't been able to go out and do my day sailing like I want to. But I might actually just break down and do some weekend trips down to the coast and actually go overnighting it like we were just talking about. Because the coast is a it's a good little drive for me to get there. But I guess that's also the benefit of a trailer sailor is, you know what? I still have options. I'm not stuck at one marina where my boat can't get out.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's exactly kind of one reason I was happy to come across this other legacy for sale because I, started thinking about those sorts of things. Although the 23 has a pretty shallow, it's a shoal draft. So I think it's like 2 foot and some change. I can't remember exactly, but still, it's a definite threat to people, getting out there on the water with their boats, even for power boats or skiffs or kayaks, like you were discussing in your video. And I just, yeah, it's pretty alarming actually to see it happen. Our lake is I think it's the lowest it's ever been. And gosh, when I was a kid, I grew up sailing on the same lake, and I remember the water was. We would have a lot of problems with flooding. Actually, it was the exact opposite. So it's pretty, yeah, it's pretty crazy how all this is impacting the things that we love to do. Very sadly.
Yeah, we'll still make it. My channel will still be water related. Anything water, I'll be putting it in there. So again, even if I have to drive a further distance, I'll do that.
Well, one of the things that's really fun about the Com-Pac family is if you go on to the Com-Pac Yacht Owners Association, which is, I believe, cpyoa.com, I think is, I'll put a link in the show notes for that too for people. And of course, I'll put a link to your YouTube channel too for the Squally Heifer YouTube channel. There's a lot of get-togethers that people will. I believe there's one in southern Illinois at Lake Carlisle every summer where people trailer in from all around. I believe there's one out in New Jersey that's the Barnegat Bay Bash, I think. And I've always wanted to. Actually, I tried to organize one myself up in the Apostle Island area, and I didn't get it done. So yeah, maybe you could trailer in for something like that one day, and we could meet in person. It would be a lot of fun. I always love to, meet up with people and talk boats and all that. So keep that in mind, Squally, because, and do you go on the Yacht Owners Association forum much? Are you on there?
Actually, no, I'm not. I've been on there once or twice, but no, I actually haven't signed up or made an account on that yet.
Well, even if you just go to lurk and just watch or read, it's always, it's a great resource. And I find the people to be very friendly and, really helpful if you have questions, whether you're doing mods on your boat or whatever. There's always someone there who seems to be able to chime in and help out, it's really, like I said, for me, I find it to be a wonderful resource. I just wanted to thank you for all of your time. And before we close the conversation, Squally, is there anything that you would like to tell people that we haven't covered about the legacy? Anything else you can think of that you'd like to share?
No, it's just a wonderful boat. It gets you out. It's easy to trailer, easy to rig, and as far as I'm concerned, one of the safest boats you can be in. Again, I've done a lot of stupid stuff in that boat, and I've never felt unsafe in it.
Yeah, I would say ditto with me in my experience too. They're great boats. Well, I'm really looking forward to catching up on more of your content. I know your videos people really enjoy them, and that knot video you're talking about, that would be great if you did something. And like I said, I would love if I could make a request. It sounds like you've done a lot of really neat things to outfit Squally Heifer for optimal solo sailing, and I would love to kind of have a video that covers all those key points, because I know for sure I definitely need something like that to help me with my own boat.
Sure. That's a great idea.
Okay, well, thank you so very much for spending some time with me and talking Com-Pac Legacies and sailing and all sorts of fun things. I really am just very grateful for your contribution to the show. Thank you so much, Squally.
I enjoyed it, Shell. Thank you so much.
Okay, you take good care now, and fair winds.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for stopping by to take a listen to my conversation with Squally Heifer of Squally Heifer Adventures, where we talk all things Com-Pac Legacy. Be sure to stop by Squally Heifer's YouTube channel at Squally Heifer Adventures. Link provided in the show notes and video description. If you would like to learn more about the Com-Pac Legacy or other Com-Pac sailboat models, check out the Com-Pac Yachts website. Links provided in the show notes and video description. Until next time, fair winds.